I never thought my own son would look me in the eye and say, "You're getting nothing, Mom." The words hit me harder than any slap could. We were sitting in the grand living room of my ex-husband's mansion, the place I had once helped design, now filled with people waiting for the reading of his will. My son's wife, Melissa, stood beside him with that smug little smirk she's worn ever since she married into the family money. I wanted to believe it was a misunderstanding, but the way they both looked at me, it was cold, calculated. It had been years since my divorce from Daniel, my ex-husband. We had built an empire together. Real estate, hotels, luxury properties worth millions. But when the marriage fell apart, I walked away with dignity, not dollars. I thought Daniel would at least leave something for me in his will, if only as a gesture of gratitude for all the years I supported him when he had nothing. But here I was, staring at my son, our only child, who seemed to be taking orders from his wife rather than his own heart. "Melissa's right," he continued. "Dad made his wishes clear. Everything is staying in the family, and that doesn't include you anymore." My chest tightened, but I refused to let them see me break. I had raised this boy, given him everything, and now he was treating me like a stranger. I took a deep breath, ready to respond, but before I could, the lawyer walked in. He was holding a leather folder with Daniel's name embossed in gold. Everyone fell silent. The lawyer looked around the room, his eyes landing on me for a moment longer than necessary. Something in his gaze made Melissa shift uncomfortably. He cleared his throat and said, "Before I begin reading the will, there's something unusual you should all know." Melissa's hand tightened on my son's arm. "Unusual? What do you mean?" she asked sharply. The lawyer smiled, no, smirked, before looking directly at me and saying, "It seems Daniel left very specific instructions about her." I felt every pair of eyes turn toward me. My heart pounded, but I kept my face still. I didn't know what Daniel had done, but I was about to find out. And judging by the lawyer's expression, my son and his wife weren't going to like it one bit. The room tensed like a rubber band pulled to the breaking point. Melissa's eyebrows knitted together. "What instructions?" she pressed. The lawyer's eyes sparkled with something between amusement and disbelief. He opened the leather folder slowly, deliberately, as if savoring the moment. "Daniel's will states," he began, "that before any division of assets, a private meeting must be held between me, his ex-wife," he nodded toward me, "and one other person named in the will." Melissa scoffed. "Private? That's ridiculous. We're all family here." The lawyer's lips curled. Daniel seemed to think otherwise. His instructions were very clear. The meeting happens first, and only those named may attend. Everyone else will wait. My son shifted uncomfortably. "Who's the other person?" The lawyer looked back at the folder. "You'll find out when the time comes." He closed it again, as if to say he wouldn't be answering more questions. Melissa stood, her voice rising. "No, I won't be shut out of this. My husband has a right to know what's going on. If you think you're going to sneak something to her behind our backs." "That's enough," the lawyer interrupted sharply. Daniel anticipated resistance. That's why he left a letter sealed, to be opened only in my presence, during this meeting. I stayed quiet, my mind spinning. Why would Daniel do this? Why single me out? We hadn't spoken much in years, and when we did, it was usually about our son. The lawyer glanced at me. "Mrs. Turner, if you'll follow me." The murmurs started immediately. Melissa muttered something under her breath, and my son's face was a mask of confusion, and was that fear? We walked down the hallway to Daniel's old study. The moment I stepped inside, I was hit with the scent of his cologne, still lingering in the air. The lawyer closed the door behind us and reached into his briefcase. "This," he said, pulling out a sealed envelope with my name written in Daniel's handwriting, "may change everything you thought you knew about him and your future." I took the envelope, my hands trembling slightly. Inside the envelope was a single handwritten letter. Daniel's handwriting was neat, almost formal, like he had taken his time. I started reading, my eyes scanning each word. "To the woman who stood beside me when I was nothing, who believed in me when the world didn't. You built my life with me, and though our marriage ended, my gratitude never did. I made mistakes that hurt you deeply. This is my chance to set things right." I stopped, my throat tightening. Daniel had never apologized for the way our marriage ended. This was the first time he'd ever acknowledged it. The letter continued, "I know our son has been influenced, and I know Melissa will try to keep you from what I've left for you. That's why I created a plan they can't touch. In the safe behind my desk, you'll find documents for a trust worth $10 million. It's in your name, irrevocable. You won't need their permission, and they can't take it from you." I blinked, my heart pounding in my ears. $10 million? I looked up at the lawyer. "Is this real?" He nodded, a small smile playing on his lips. "Very real. And that's not all. There's something else in the safe, something Daniel wanted you to have before the will is even read." I walked to the desk, my hands trembling as the lawyer guided me to the hidden safe. He turned the dial and opened it. Inside was a small velvet box and a thick folder. The folder contained the trust documents. The velvet box held something unexpected. A key. "What's this for?" I asked. The lawyer's eyes gleamed. "Daniel left a property, one he never told anyone about. He said it was where he felt most at peace. He wanted you to decide its fate." When we returned to the main room, Melissa's eyes darted to the envelope in my hand. "What did he say?" "What did you get?" she demanded. I slipped the letter back into the envelope. "Nothing you need to worry about." Melissa's lips pressed into a thin line, but before she could respond, the lawyer took his place at the front. Now, as for the rest of the will, he began listing assets, multiple properties, luxury cars, stocks, art collections. My son and Melissa exchanged smug glances each time a new asset was named. Then the lawyer's tone shifted. However, Daniel made it clear that certain conditions must be met before anyone can claim these assets. Failure to meet these conditions will result in forfeiture. Melissa laughed. "What conditions?" The lawyer's gaze swept the room. "Each beneficiary must spend 30 consecutive days living in a specific property Daniel owned, together." A murmur rippled through the room. "Together," my son repeated. "Yes," the lawyer confirmed. "And that includes his ex-wife, Mrs. Turner." Melissa's jaw dropped. "You mean we have to live with her?" "That's exactly what I mean," the lawyer replied. "If anyone refuses, their portion of the inheritance will be redistributed." The property in question turned out to be a sprawling estate on the coast. Waves crashed against the cliffs below, and the house itself looked like something from a luxury magazine. White stone walls, floor-to-ceiling glass windows, and sprawling gardens. Melissa stepped out of the car and wrinkled her nose. "It's isolated. Creepy. And the wind is awful." I ignored her. The air here was fresh, the view stunning. Something about this place felt familiar, like I'd been here before. Inside, the lawyer gave us each a set of keys. "The 30 days begin now," he said. "If anyone leaves before the time is up, their share is gone." Melissa scoffed but didn't argue. That night, we sat down for dinner at the massive dining table. Melissa couldn't help herself. "So, what did you get in that little private meeting?" "It's obvious Daniel left you something." I kept my voice calm. "Why do you assume that?" Her eyes narrowed. "Because you're too calm for someone who's about to be cut out of everything." I smiled faintly. "Maybe that's because I already have what I need." Melissa froze, her fork halfway to her mouth. My son glanced between us but said nothing. The tension in the room was thick. Somewhere deep down, I knew this was only the beginning. The next few days were awkward. Melissa treated me like a trespasser in my own space, while my son tried to avoid taking sides. I explored the estate alone, drawn to a locked room on the second floor. One afternoon, I found the lawyer waiting in the study. "Daniel wanted you to have this," he said, handing me a map. It marked a location just beyond the garden, an old boathouse. Curious, I went down to the cliffs. The boathouse was weathered, its doors chained shut. I used the key from the velvet box, and the lock clicked open. Inside, I found stacks of old photographs, ledgers, and a safe. The ledgers were filled with Daniel's handwriting, recording transactions for something I didn't recognize. Among the photographs was one that made my breath catch. Daniel, holding a baby I didn't know. The date was from before our divorce. I stared at it, my mind racing. Who was this child? Why had Daniel hidden this? The sound of footsteps outside pulled me from my thoughts. I quickly locked the boathouse and hid the key. Whoever that child was, I had a feeling the answer could shatter everything. Over dinner that night, Melissa's tone was unusually sharp. "You've been sneaking around," she accused. "What's in that shed by the water?" I met her gaze evenly. "A place Daniel wanted me to see." Melissa's eyes narrowed. "You think you can play games with us? We'll find out what you're hiding." My son shifted uncomfortably. "Melissa, drop it." She didn't. "No. She's up to something, and I'm not letting her take what's ours." The lawyer arrived the next morning for his check-in. Before Melissa could complain, I pulled him aside and showed him the photograph of Daniel with the baby. His face paled slightly. "Where did you find this?" he asked. "In the boathouse," I said. "Who is this child?" The lawyer hesitated. "That is the other person named in Daniel's will." I blinked. "The one for the private meeting?" "Yes," he said quietly. "And they're coming here tomorrow." My stomach nodded. If this was true, then everything Melissa thought she knew about the inheritance was about to explode. The next day, a car pulled up the long driveway. Out stepped a young woman in her 20s, with Daniel's eyes and my son's jawline. The resemblance was undeniable. Melissa's jaw dropped. "Who the hell is she?" The lawyer stepped forward. "This is Anna. She is Daniel's daughter." Silence fell. My son looked like someone had punched him. "That's impossible," he whispered. Anna's voice was steady. "I'm your sister." Melissa sputtered. "If she's his daughter, she doesn't get anything. This is between the three of us." The lawyer shook his head. "Actually, Daniel left a third of the estate to Anna, provided she completes the 30 days here with all of you." The tension skyrocketed. Melissa muttered something vile under her breath, but I was watching Anna. There was something about her, a quiet strength. That night, Anna found me in the kitchen. "He told me about you," she said softly. "Said you were the only one who really understood him." Her words hit me harder than I expected. And for the first time, I wondered if Daniel's plan wasn't just about money. Maybe it was about bringing out truths we'd all buried. Living together was chaos. Melissa tried to provoke Anna daily, while my son avoided confrontation. But slowly, Anna and I grew closer. She told me about growing up without knowing Daniel as her father, about the struggles her mother faced. One evening, while looking through the ledgers again, I found an entry that made my blood run cold. Daniel had been secretly funneling money to support Anna's family for years. It explained some of the missing funds Melissa had always suspected. When I confronted the lawyer, he confirmed it. Daniel knew Melissa would try to control everything. That's why he hid the trust, the property, and Anna's inheritance. Melissa overheard us. Her face twisted with rage. "So this was your plan all along? To take everything from us?" I stood my ground. "No, Melissa. This was Daniel's plan. And maybe if you stopped seeing everything as yours, you'd understand why." She stormed off, slamming the door so hard the windows rattled. But I knew the worst was still to come. The final day, when the lawyer would read the rest of the will. The 30 days passed faster than I expected. On the final day, we gathered in the study. The lawyer opened the last sealed envelope. "Daniel writes," he began, "that money is meaningless without integrity. To my ex-wife, I leave the trust and the coastal estate, for she helped me build my life when no one else believed in me. To my daughter Anna, I leave a third of my remaining assets, so she can have the life I wish I'd been there to give her. And to my son, I leave what is left, provided he learns from this experience." Melissa's face drained of color. "What's left?" "That's it." The lawyer closed the folder. "Yes. And the condition is that he manages it alone. No one else controlling him." My son looked at me then, not with the arrogance I'd seen a month ago, but with something closer to shame. "Mom, I'm sorry." I nodded. "We'll talk later." As we left the study, I felt a weight lift from my shoulders. Daniel had done what I never could. He forced the truth into the open. And for the first time in years, I walked away knowing I had more than just money. I had my dignity back.